There are a lot of people out there walking around with complex PTSD, and they might know they have it, they're talking about it, they're kind of doing something about it, but mostly they're just suffering with it. They're not getting better. You might be someone who's lived your whole life afraid that you're going to become one of those people, like stuck in your trauma, never being happy or loved or fulfilled or financially stable. And granted, it's hard to know when you're first starting out on your healing what's going to work for you. But if you never really tried, you're not going to find out. On some level, even though you work hard and you struggle with this, you might feel you've kind of half-assed your life and your healing in particular, and maybe you haven't taken the steps that you know that you would need to take to actually heal and change your life. I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and in this video I want to encourage you to take your healing seriously, to double down on it so that you can heal. And I'm going to lay out 10 things that you can do if you're ready to move forward with that, all right? Now obviously not all of these will apply to you, but these are the 10 things that worked for me, and I'm going to tell you what they were. And when you've heard everything that I'm going to explain to you about them, you can pick one or two. You can pick the most important ones, and I would encourage you to take the ones that are causing you the most pain, but also that are actually fixable for you right now. Pick things that you can win at as your first goals. You might be able to hear there's like 3 chainsaws going outside right now. It's a full-on Texas Chainsaw Massacre out there. So I think they're going to be like using those all day. There's not really anything I could do about it, and I wanted to tape this video anyway because I wanted you to have it. So number 1, you can do this one. Learn what complex PTSD is. Not just what you've heard on the internet, not just what other people say about it, and not focusing all your energy on what might be the diagnosis of the people who hurt you. That's not the same thing as understanding what's going on with your brain. Learning about your brain, about dysregulation and what that does for you, emotional regulation, and then when you have a sense of yourself, then it's a great time to start learning what other people did to heal. Number 2, when you look at yourself and how you're doing, be willing to notice some of the problems that maybe have nothing to do with trauma. Now it's true, CPTSD can make it hard to focus. It can make it hard to be consistent, to be kind and considerate as you want to be. It might make it hard to stay present. It might have damaged your relationships. It might have damaged your health. Okay, so all those things are out there, but everybody has a couple problems that are just kind of ordinary human problems. So it could be something like maybe you're often late. A lot of people struggle with that. You don't have to be traumatized. Trauma could be implicated in that, but sometimes that's one of the things that you just have. And the reason I love the problems that are just kind of like normal person problems is because they're a little easier to solve. You don't have to heal your brain necessarily to get that going. It could be that you need to keep your kitchen cleaner, that the whole kitchen like smells like garbage all the time, and when people come over you're ashamed. I know how trauma can drive that kind of thing, but it's a problem that anybody might have, and it's a solvable problem. I love low-hanging fruit problems, things that you can solve quickly and get a little win. Number 3, prepare to move your stories about the abuse and neglect that happened to you out of present time looping thoughts and into what I call the memory bucket. If you can imagine, there's a bucket. So it's a different thing, isn't it, when something that happened in the past is still activated in your mind, and you get emotions every time you think about it. You might start crying, or you might fill up with adrenaline and your heart pounds. It might scatter your thoughts. So that's what I call an electric thought, and it's activated. When a memory goes into the memory bucket, it's deactivated. You can remember it. If anybody asks you a question about it, you can remember all the same details about it, but it doesn't trigger this huge physiological and neurological response in you. So it's the memory bucket. So when I say get ready, one thing you could do is start to write about it, to start being truly like open-minded that you could be okay without this. And if you feel anxious at the thought of like surrendering your fear and resentment about the world, I would just say do it a tiny bit at a time. Do a little bit at a time and see what happens, and just see if when you surrender fear about something, does it incapacitate you? Does it make you a doormat? It's not been my experience that it does. In fact, it makes me more empowered. It makes me more clear about when something dangerous is in my presence, when I need to act on it. So you can try that for yourself, little bits, all right? Number 4 is stop trying to make other people not trigger you, all right? So If you get very triggered by people, and pretty much everybody with complex PTSD gets triggered by people, and that's what makes people hard. That's what makes us have a tendency to want to isolate or keep people at arm's length. Those interactions get so triggering. So there's a misunderstanding that if we could just get other people to stop behaving the way they do, or saying what they say, or making us feel the way we feel, then we would be okay. And sometimes that's true. But it's usually not true that you even could, that they could stop triggering you even if they wanted to with all their hearts. The central problem is that we get triggered. The empowered approach is to maintain your control over that, to learn to calm your triggers. Now, when you can learn to calm your triggers, for one thing, you're not so triggered, and you become perceptive, and you can begin to tell if someone in your presence who's been hard for you to hang around, are they actually a great big problem for you, or are they okay? It's just that you have triggers. That's called discernment. That's one of the biggest things that we lose with CPTSD, is that ability to discern. There's so much confusion walking around, like, is it just me, or is this person a real jerk? And you can begin to have discernment about that. And what a relief. What a relief to be clear, like, this person doesn't belong in my life. This person I love, they're awesome. And I'm going to make this relationship better and safer for them by calming my triggers. All right? So you have the power to do that. The other great thing about learning to calm your triggers is that you become flexible. You become able to hang out with a variety of different people. You can be in all kinds of circumstances. You don't have to be so particular and have so-called boundaries about, I don't do this, I don't eat that, I never let people say this, I can't stand hearing it. You can start to be flexible and just sort of let life happen around you and be discerning about it, mostly okay with it, but knowing when it's time to step out of a situation if you need to, have a boundary, right? When you can do that, CPTSD gets held back here. If you have calm triggers, it cannot get the better of you, because that's basically what it is. All the bad things that come with CPTSD, the cognitive, the memory, the relationship problems, right? The health problems, the headaches, the stress, all of that can't get activated if you don't get triggered. So there's your superpower, okay? If you were to do one thing, just start bringing it in and learn how to notice when you're triggered and bring it down. Now, learning to notice dysregulation and a triggered state in ourselves, that's a huge piece of what I teach in my 8-week coaching intensive. And that's a program that I teach now and then. You may have seen it. And we go all the way through, what happened, dysregulation, triggers, disconnection from people, self-defeating behavior, learning to own our healing. And finally, in like the 8th week, we're working on bringing your talents into your life. All the stuff that was suppressed by all the stuff earlier in the chain where you were too dysregulated to connect with people or do what you're capable of doing. The point of our healing, it's not just to feel better. You do have to feel better. You do need that. You deserve it. But when you do feel better, the real point of healing can begin. And that's you becoming yourself and delivering the gifts that you have to bring to the world, all right? If you're interested in that coaching program, that'll be down there with all the things down below in the description section. All right, number 5. This one's kind of high-level Jedi stuff. Stop trash talking the people who you choose to have in your life. It's very common for people who don't have CPTSD to just throw labels. They're a narcissist, they're toxic. But if you really want to heal, if you want to double down on your healing, I encourage you to stop using those labels on people and instead just start noticing whatever you call it, the thing that other people do or have that's so troubling for you, the thing you're focusing on your healing is the way that you get troubled, the way that your emotions rise up or you get dysregulated, right? That's the part. That's the part where you actually have influence over what happens next. So whatever you want to call them, if you've ever had luck telling somebody, hey, you're a narcissist, I think you really ought to read this book or something, that never works. You probably noticed that. It never works. People are going to be people. Now, you don't have to keep these people in your life. The more you recover, the more you're going to get clear about who should stay and who should go. But focusing on yourself is always going to be your superpower. Focusing on, this is where I get triggered. Because if you get triggered around somebody who is, a psychopath, you're going to be really defenseless against whatever harm they're going to do to you. You want to be grounded. You want to be lucid, clear-headed, clear-eyed, perceptive, so that you can make good decisions about how to proceed when somebody begins to treat you badly. And if somebody's treating you really well, of course, you want to be at your best. You want to be able to open your heart and enjoy that relationship. Number 6, stop clinging to bad relationships that make you miserable. Now, I got to bring this in any discussion of what it means to double down on your healing. Staying in bad relationships and hemorrhaging all your energy and your cognition to a situation where you're fighting all the time, you're being treated in an abusive manner, you're being disrespected, you're sad all the time. It's going to be really hard to heal your life in those circumstances. So I understand there are relationships where there's an obligation, a duty. If you have children who are minors, if you, for the time being, have no financial means to get out, and I mean none, because I really think that living humbly is a lot better than staying in an abusive situation. Or if these are parents or family members who, have dementia, and even though they're treating you badly and it's miserable, you're honoring them by caring for them and making sure they're cared for. All right, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm not really talking about situations that are complicated by duty and promises. I'm talking about things like boyfriends and girlfriends who don't treat you well and who suck the life out of you and who are going to prevent you from moving forward with your healing, all right? Number 7 is the same thing, but for jobs. Don't stay in work that makes you miserable unless your life depends on it. There are times when we all got to do what we got to do to get the paycheck, right? But not forever. Don't let that be forever. And if the paycheck is not the problem right now, I want you to ask yourself, is being miserable at work the way that you avoid facing responsibility for your life? And I talk about this very directly because it's something that I've had to face myself too. There was a lot of time when I was still at the effect of CPTSD where if I weren't miserable, I would have to notice immediately that there was this giant hole in my life where close relationships were supposed to be. That I had superficial relationships, I was getting my self-esteem off the fact that I had a job, but I was not happy. And I didn't like the way I was treated. And I stayed years working for an awful boss, years. And then I bounced around to a couple of awful bosses. The problem was in here. The problem was in the work that I was accepting for myself, in my unwillingness to make changes and to do the growth and the learning that was going to be necessary for me to take that step up. And it's hard. And I had to do it as a single mom. I ended up completely unemployed as a single mom. And I just want to say, I realize I don't have the worst problems that anybody's ever had, but to a large degree, if I could do it, if I could get going and create a way to make a living that suited me and that was a respectful, self-loving, creative, enjoyable kind of work for myself, I just think a lot of you can too. And for those of you who have other extenuating circumstances that are keeping you stuck, feel the truth of what I'm saying, let it guide you. Don't ever let a sense of giving up or a sense of avoidance hold you back from moving forward to the kind of relationships and work where you belong, All right, number 8, detach from the belief that you passively, just magically attract bad people. I hear people say this all the time. I attract narcissists. Well, acknowledge that the issue is not really who is attracted to you. The issue is who you get attracted to, who you tolerate, who you date, who you sleep with. That is the problem. And that's a much better problem to have than some sort of magic pheromone attraction to sick people. And it's true, like people who want to exploit others, they might look for people who are weak, people who have no boundaries, people who are not defending themselves. So no, don't be that person. Don't be that person who can tolerate it. I think that bad people are seeking out people to exploit a little less than sometimes they're given credit for. I think they're just knocking around looking for people who will tolerate them. And that's kind of, that's not really any different than anybody else. So it's your tolerance, it's your boundaries, it's your red light detector that have to switch on. If you're going to double down on your healing, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to take responsibility that you are the gatekeeper. And you may have heard me say, I attract mosquitoes, but I don't marry them. What I attract has nothing to do with what I attach to, okay? All right, number 9, if you have addictive behaviors, make recovery your first priority. Alcohol, drugs, food, pornography, spending, all that stuff. Your healing will get an enormous boost when you allow yourself to experience life's ups and downs and show up for it and not escape it. Now, I have CPTSD too. I know how tempting it is to try to grab on and control things or run away from them or just get into some kind of oblivion. And it's almost universal with people with CPTSD. It's going to take one form or another. And just because it's not heroin doesn't mean it's not terrible. So I'm not going to get into all the means that people have to recover from these specific addictions, but what I want to say to you right now is if you have an addictive tendency, just move that to number one spot on your list of how you're going to double down on your healing. If you're escaping, if you're using anything at all to sort of escape life's ups and downs and those feelings of disappointment and stress and emptiness and loneliness, I totally know what it's like. But if you're using something to escape that, you cannot recover from it. It's almost impossible. And I mean, look around you at people who have these kind of struggles. Look around at people who once had the struggles and got better. The path towards healing always involves facing what's going wrong. And your life, even when you're perfectly healed, which nobody's going to be perfectly healed, but even if you were, life is going to have ups and downs. You're going to lose friends, big disappointments will happen, outside events will happen. You're going to need a means to be able to handle what comes. And that is true freedom when you feel like whatever happens, I'll be able to face it. You can't just beat yourself up. You can't just read a book. There are a lot of ways that you can heal, but one of them is going to have to be a way that you self-comfort and bring yourself back out of dysregulation and into re-regulation. And when you have that, you'll find it a lot easier to overcome addictions. All right, number 10, sit down and ask yourself. It's just a thought exercise. I really like this one. Ask yourself, if I really had to solve this problem, what are 10 things I could do? And I love doing this. I apply it to all kinds of problems, but it's a really good one to do about how you would heal from your complex PTSD. Because you actually have the answers in there. You know a number of things that you suspect would be really helpful, but you just haven't had the energy or the focus to take them on right now. So make a list of them. You don't have to take them on all at once, right? But make a list of them. Just like bring them into the sunlight. Let them in. Just let them into your mind and heart and see what happens. This is a video I made, I don't know, a year and a half ago called If You Had 1 Year to Heal, and people loved it. I'll put a link to the video in the description section below. If you watch the video, there's a link at the end of that where I give like a worksheet that you can download. So that's a cool exercise. You might want to try that. Another way that you can work on this, if you have the means, is my coaching team and I offer 8-week coaching intensives. And these are opportunities to get into small groups and work one-on-one and with your small group for 8 weeks to really apply some of these principles. There's a link to that below, and if you're interested, I encourage you to apply quickly so that you can get into the next group. And while we're talking about links down below, have a look. There's courses, there's quizzes you can take to find out what symptoms might be active in you right now, and I think you'll find them useful. I will see you very soon.